So here we're going to do a thumb splint with an overlap kind of design, mainly for CMC and MCP problems. So I usually use my patterns in a textile. In this case it's a neoprene that will allow me to go in and check the sizing of the pattern already before I've done the splint. And we can see that this one works. The material that I'm using is the Turbotreat Comfort. And this is actually a lined material, so it has a coating on the inside. There's a thermoplastic surface on the outside that is sticky. With the overlap function, I have to make sure that I cut the pattern so I get the lining on the inside. I prepared my sample and cut that one, and the overlap piece over the thumb, I have removed the coating so it actually can stick to itself. The temperature I can recommend is 75 to 80 degrees Celsius, and we simply just immerse the thermoplastic into the pan. So now the material is warm. I will carefully remove it from the splint pan. The upper surface is now quite sticky. I will apply the coating basically down onto the towel so it absorbs a little bit of moisture. Then I will go in, apply and position. Make sure that you stretch the material so it goes directly over the MCP to get a really nice kind of fit. And then I usually stretch the material on the other side just to position it so I get a really snug fit. Now I just wait for it to cool down. Because it's a coating on the inside, it gives me a little bit additional time basically to work. I'm usually holding just a little bit of grip to create a web space and to have enough space over the thinner eminence. So now the model is ready. We have a very snug fit on the design. And the area that I basically welded together on the outside just to position, I can basically just open like this, and then we can remove it basically on the patient like this.
Okay.
So this is the area that I pre-prepared to do the overlap so it sticks. So now we're going to apply hook and loop onto our thumb splits. And what I will do then is I always make sure that the patient are able to close it correctly. And in this case I will choose to have the hook part on the volar side, and then I will use the loop strap basically pulling from the dorsal side, applying onto the volar side. So I have a loop strap, I have a self-adhesive hook, but with self-adhesive hook I can never really rely that it actually will stay in place. It usually peels off quite easily. So what I will start with doing is actually rounding this one so it actually has a little bit of a shape to my splint, and that kind of fits very good into that area there. And I will do the same thing on the other side. We'll round that one also. This is self-adhesive, and self-adhesive I can just basically position like this. But the problem with the self-adhesive hook is that it eventually peels off. So I'm using a special technique where I use Immo Plus or I use Turbocast to basically line that one with thermoplastic. In order to do that I need a heat gun. I need a strip that is around about 5 mm of either Immo Plus or with the Turbocast. I do not recommend to use water with this because we need a little bit excess heat in order to get the material to weld onto this top surface of the Comfort. So the way I do this is I put my heat gun on and I basically start heating the material from on the tip. And then as soon as it starts bending like this, then it has enough temperature to be workable. So the challenge now will be to apply the strip onto the hook. And I just use a little bit of pressure on my finger, and then I go around, position that one edge by edge like this. And I don't have to do the whole hook if I don't feel that I have the time.
Okay. Yeah.
So then what I do is I just put a little bit of water onto the surface, and then I can work the thermoplastic into the hook and to the surface of the material.
Perfect.
That way I have stabilized the edge of the hook, but also welded it into the top surface of the comfort material. So
Perfect.
now to do the loop side. And the problem here is always that it's not enough adhesion in the thermoplastic to apply to the loop side. So what I usually do is I take my heat gun, I put it on, make it really warm, and then I melt the top surface of that loop. That means that it becomes slightly narrower and a little bit more direct contact to my surface. What I can do now is I can spot heat that, position the strap, then basically test that the strap meets the hook correctly. So in order to get the strap to attach a little bit better, I will make a hole in the material, and that is easily done by folding the material, taking my scissor, and I cut just briefly into the material. What happens then is I actually get a round hole.
Nice.
And that hole, I will then put thermoplastic on top, so it becomes like a plastic rivet into the material. In order to position the strap, I will use my heat gun, and I will just do a very quick spot heat on the surface. Just a few seconds. Attach the strap onto the surface that is now a little bit tacky. That means that now I can direct the strap going into the hook area. The next thing I will do is I will use then thermoplastic basically to cover that. So thermoplastic goes to thermoplastic and it becomes very, very stable. So if I heat this one, I do the same thing as I did with the strip. I heat it quite extensively. When it starts folding, then it's basically ready for application. Now it's very hot and it's very sticky. So I will put a little bit of water on my finger, then I attach that onto the surface like this. I will cut it away, and I will put just a little bit of water on the top, and then I will work the hot thermoplastic in over the hook into the material, and I especially press where the hole is. Then it actually creates like a rivet onto my application. Now I will basically just let it sit and cool down, and then we will do the final adjustment, which is basically the edge that we have here. This I chose not to round off, so I will use an external kind of padding material on this, which is self-adhesive. So that lower part with the Turbotreat Comfort, I could literally just round it off and it would become very smooth. But I choose to do another application here, which is like a micro fleece lining. And this micro fleece lining is self-adhesive. So that will basically allow me to attach that around the edge. And it's also possible to replace this, so if it's necessary. So what I will do here is I just open up that protective kind of film. Now it's self-adhesive and quite elastic. I usually start by applying the material on the inside, like this, and then I fold it gently on the outside. Continue basically to remove that protective stripping. So I attach basically the self-adhesive fleece on the inside, and then basically do it this way, that I do the first alignment, and then on the outside here I basically fold it very gentle, side by side, like this, and then actually having it attach on the outside. That becomes a very, very smooth kind of surface. So basically it goes from the inside to the outside and becomes then very comfortable for the patient in that case. So.